I hope you are well and doing great. Looking forward for today's session like no other. We were trying to cover what would be the bearish case for Bitcoin in yesterday's session. Ultimately, it was quite bullish. I want to make sure we take a look at that again, even take a look at potentially what could be under great distress, what would really be the worst case scenario, so that today we could focus on the bullish case for Bitcoin. Today, I want to make sure that I present what I believe is actually transpiring, rightfully so at this moment. There's a lot of fear out there. Happy Taco Tuesday. Hope you all are doing well. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're not, welcome back. This is Jordan with Conquer Trading and Investing, and this is the place that I love to be. The bullish case for Bitcoin. Yeah, I've spent enough time over the past week, and that was before the $35,000 drop, before we lost $35,000, that big technical break. Wanted as many people as possible to know the importance of that level before it happened. The same thing we did at 53,000 in advance of the breakdown. Both times giving the people the opportunity to de-risk down. 19,000 on linear, on log scale, over at 21,000. Those would be de-risking events. It could happen. We don't know that it won't. Before we start looking at the bullish case for Bitcoin, I want to look at what is the bearish case for Bitcoin. All I have over here is highlighted the 2016 in light blue cycle, and I have this green box. This green box goes from the all-time high until the halving. So right now we're looking at the approximate halving date, March 2nd, 2024. That's where this line is right over here. During that period, there's two observations that I want to make, is that price came off 85%, and that also when price was entering the halving, it was 46% off the all-time high. Okay, so two observations. Price was 46% off the all-time high. Price went down 85%. The similar thing occurred during the next cycle. This is 2016 in blue. You could see the extension of the green box, the all-time high, and that is at the halving. Price also went down 85% from that all-time high. And at the time of the halving, price was 54% off the all-time high. Now, that could be diminishing returns in play. Maybe each halving, price is lower. Maybe it's roughly 50% off. This case, 47%. This one, 54%. The average of the two is 50% off. Or maybe we're seeing diminishing returns, and it's causing price to kind of be further back from the all-time high each time we enter that halving. Let me go ahead and add one more. I want to add the current market cycle that we're looking in. All-time high over here. If price does trade down, by the way, 85%, we are looking at $10,000 Bitcoin. So that's something that has to be, let's say, if we're looking at and preparing for in this bear market, what the worst case scenario would be. It's not an 85% drawdown. It could be more than that. But if it were an 85% drawdown, as in the two previous cycles, that's Bitcoin $10,000. If it were to be, or we were moving towards something that was a little bit more aggressive, something like, the 2000 dot-com bubble crash and ensuing bear market and recession that took multiple years to repair and a huge leg down, well, then maybe we're looking at something a lot lower. And maybe we have something more close to like a 93% drawdown. And that's arbitrary because I don't know how far it could be. $10,000, 85% drawdown. I imagine that for me, that would be like the worst case. And again, it's possible things even wound up getting worse. But if I were to look at this diminishing returns type theory and then go ahead and say, okay, well, there's a good chance that this one is 62% off or $26,000. And because each time you could see that price is a little further from the all-time high. So $26,000 Bitcoin at the time of the halving, March 2nd, 2024, with a potential 85% drawdown from the all-time high. So taking us back towards $10,000. That would be the worst case situation scenario that I could envision going forward right now in Bitcoin. $34,000 would be if price were 50% off the all-time high. We've seen in the past two cycles, one was 47% off, one was 54% off. An average of the two, 50% would put us around $34,000 Bitcoin. Again, if that were happening with a potential 85% drawdown, it's not such a bad situation. For many, it's actually the best situation that they could be in. For many people, and a lot of people don't have a Bitcoin position, you're obviously an early adopter. For them to have that type of time, that would really be helpful. All right, now let's take a look at what I believe is going on. Each time price makes the all-time high in the past, it's been after the halving event. Again, after the halving, price makes that new all-time high. After the halving, price makes that new all-time high. Are we looking at potentially after the halving, price making a new all-time high? Some point in 2024, potentially. What appears to me is happening, and this is the bullish case for Bitcoin, is that we are looking, there's a couple of times where price makes a big move up. This one over here, this one coming off the 2018 December bottom, off the March 2020 lows, these big moves up that have occurred on Bitcoin. One thing that they all have in common is that they all occur off of the bright green line. That's where we are right now. One could look at this chart and say that we are a lot closer to the bottom of the coming bull market than we are towards. I didn't even get a chance to yet present my bullish case for Bitcoin. I don't think that Bitcoin is going to break below our channel lows over here, right? This one over here, this red one, that's like emergency. That's not even like really within range. I don't include it on this chart. On this chart over here, I'm looking at, 21,000 as being the low, 22,000, that's rising. I believe that it holds. If it doesn't hold, I believe something is very off. That's my base case. My base case is by September, at some point in September, that we're trading 32,000 and or above. And if we are, I do believe that there's a significant probability that by January 2023, that we are back to within the model's price. The model's price is the bright green line. It's the slope of Bitcoin that's been happening since 2015. It goes back even further. You could say that ever since March 2013, the slope of the model price has been 107.17 up until this moment. As we're trading below that line this moment, it's a rare event. It's approximately 190 days ever since that March 2013 that Bitcoin has traded below it. That's the model's price, but the price is normally above that line, not at the price or not below it, but above it. And I have this model showing me of the current adoption rate of Bitcoin. Well, from my understanding, the adoption rate of Bitcoin is a little over 100% year over year. The slope of this model is a little over 100% year over year. It's 107% year over year. Yeah. So if that continues, my hypothesis, my expectations is that price is going to be at $58,000 on January 1st, 2023. Yeah. And if that's happening, and I look at, past behavior of Bitcoin, and I see that come January, price is trading at $58,000, that's a lot higher than it is 50% off and going to the halving. That's never happened before. It's never happened before that price is above the all-time high going into the next halving. Now, our next halving is all the way over here. That's below the channel of the model. That's not true. It's possible. That's why I have the green box over to here. Or earlier in the presentation, I was like, well, that one's a little off. This is when it makes new all-time highs. So my model suggests that the latest price can make a new all-time high would be over here, right where this mouse is. I don't have a date. If I look to the bottom, it's at some point, it looks like the end of 2023 or very early 2024, because the line to the right of that is March 2nd, 2024, the date of the next expected halving. So the way that I have this, I believe that price is supposed to be at or above this green line. That suggests to me that at some point in early 2023, first quarter, second quarter, that price should be making a new all-time high. That's extraordinarily bullish for Bitcoin because that has never happened before. Bitcoin has never been at or near or making an all-time high before the halving. That's the bullish case for Bitcoin. That's my expectations, is that this time is different. That this time, even in light of the current Fed policy of tightening, seemingly until something breaks. We try to look at the Fed as the most important factor since inception here, since we started building awareness about Bitcoin on this channel in late 2019. And the Fed and its macro policy has always been the biggest factor that could, let's say, affect. Is the Fed going to actually, as they begin drawing away liquidity through quantitative tightening, break something here that is going to cause us to have some type of failure? A failure would be a break of our log lines below. Now, I don't believe it breaks on the log scale. In case it does, because I don't know what's going to happen, I had to do the work. This was as we were approaching 35,000. 35,000 is a big technical breakdown. So if we're closing in on it, what happens below? That's when I went ahead and made sure that this model was tight for us. So we have this awareness, these expectations. I don't believe the log breaks. If it does, I know we have the linear trend lines going down to 19,000. Below that, watch out. It could get really ugly. The question is, what would I do? Would I be de-risking further? I de-risked all the way up at 53,000. That's when I paid off loans and took profit on all my leverage trades. I started leverage trades on the breakout of the bull market. I paused them on $50,000 breakdown in May. I restarted them after the most important trend line in crypto was broken to the upside or just before it. And then I stopped them again at 53,000. So at this point, I'm holding spot for the duration. I was said, well, don't buy Bitcoin. Don't dollar cost average. The posture here at CTM should be just trying to build up reserves if you're able, or if you have a dollar cost averaging schedule, pause that and build up reserves. It changes again now. Now it's okay. Now it's time to back dollar cost average. If we broke down below this major breakdown, call it 21,000 on the log, 19,000 on the linear, I'm not de-risking further. I've already de-risked when it was up at $53,000. I'm holding spot Bitcoin. There's a huge comfort to holding spot Bitcoin is that you don't have to worry about any type of margin calls. This is the time that you should be in spot. If you feel more comfortable or you feel, we talked about the other night, if you slept well, you are positioned perfectly into Bitcoin. If you were up all night watching the price of Bitcoin, it's because your position sizing is way off. And that's the discomfort that you need to look at in order to find the comfort of where you should be. The whole reason that 35,000 was made a big deal, the big technical level, was because if people hadn't de-risked already by then, because a lot of people take big risks. I don't. And believe me, when I was borrowing against my Bitcoin to buy Bitcoin at $11,000, everyone told me that, I was taking on too big of risks. It was a risk I understood and why I was doing it on the breakout of the bull market. Yeah. And at this point, paying back loans, 53, that seemed to me to be prudent. Here we are. So I wouldn't do anything if we broke down. I would continue this current game plan, though. The only difference is that I would have in my mind that this would be the worst case scenario, that leading into March 2nd, 2024, the next Bitcoin halving, the next halving of the miners reward, that my expectations with that price would be somewhere around $30,000, diminishing returns. So I have it $26,000, 62% off. Here we went 47 to 53, so plus 8. Here I went 54 to 62, plus 8, $26,000. That's all I would do. I would set my mindset correctly and understand that it could be some time before we saw some type of catalyst that would set Bitcoin off to do Bitcoin things again. And I don't think that's going to happen, because I think what you're going to see is happening is a lot of this. Let me highlight one more area for you. And this is the front running. I'll just put it like in that box right there. I'm just going to, just bear with me over here. I want you to see it. So I'm just going to highlight it like that. And you can see this is like the front running that took place in the light blue 2016 cycle. And here you can see the front running that took place in the 2020 cycle. And that's more likely we experience something like that before we reach the next halving in 2024. So That's definitely the bearish case for Bitcoin. And let me highlight the bullish case for Bitcoin just a little bit more. Generally, what happens is that we see as price, well, first of all, the observation, this bright green line, that price continues at this trajectory. This trajectory also happens to match the adoption rate of Bitcoin. There might be something to that. At this point over here, we are getting very close. By the way, model broken up into the hype phase, the facing reality phase, right? We're towards this particular point, facing reality of the technology adoption life cycle, where if the new technology is going to persist, it moves out of the facing reality stage and it moves into the ultimate market opportunity. You do not see diminishing returns on technology that reaches ultimate market opportunity. That's when you experience exponential returns. Now, I have very on purpose the highlight of this channel ending in this area in 2024, the end of 2024. Let's get that far before worrying about how long that the ultimate market opportunity could last, how far it will go. Let's first, make sure that we're able to get to it, because right now we're in the facing reality stage. It's still possible Bitcoin doesn't make it. But if you believe in Bitcoin, the value proposition for Bitcoin, that you believe Bitcoin does have a use case and that Bitcoin has a future, you will see Bitcoin enter or exit the ultimate market opportunity and reach or be working towards reaching a sustainable market. That's when it flattens out, goes sideways, and that will match or mirror the bell of the adoption curve flattening out as well. Right now, we are early adopters trying to jump the chasm into the early market opportunity and for the early majority to enter. This is the period where you will see the early. We want to set them up right now. We want to be explaining the bullish case to Bitcoin to all of them, because the worst thing that could happen for them, and the worst thing is, by the way, and this is every time I speak to someone about Bitcoin, I make sure to tell them, listen, do not invest more than you could afford to lose. My stop loss is 0. And when I put, at the time, 50% of my net worth into Bitcoin, that was including owned real estate, that was with the understanding that could go to 0. Or likely every 10 minutes that goes by, every new block on Bitcoin, the most secure network in the world, the largest decentralized network in the world, the longer that continues, the more likely it's going to continue. Bitcoin, in my assessment, is much less riskier today than it was even 2 or 4 years ago. There's a good chance that Bitcoin is going to go on to make new all-time highs. There's a good chance that when Bitcoin makes new all-time highs, that it has another big leg up. You could look at this and notice this another way. Let me zoom in like this. And you could see that, well, every time Bitcoin has made new all-time highs, the gains are made from the bright green line. Look at the difference over here now when I go ahead and I show you whether or not you're looking at from the all-time high to the next all-time high, right? 1,500% return. It's a little different if you start where the green line is. Like take it from there and go all the way to the top. You're talking about a 7,000% return. Do it with something you're a lot more familiar with. Do it with the last bull market cycle, and you can see that Bitcoin, why having this massive 250% gain coming off the green line to that, you're talking about a 1,700% gain. That's going to be the difference for people who get in whenever Bitcoin makes that new all-time high to whatever the top might be. Maybe we have another 200% gain off that high, whatever happens. But the thing is, if you're watching, go ahead and smash that like button, get me amped up to continue going over here. Big difference between price making a new all-time high, even if from the all-time high it has a 400% gain. If that's where we are, from where we are right here in this moment up until then, I'll just go from the green line. I'll go even a little higher. Let me come towards that same level and area was 846%. A lot of people have bear market blues right now. I feel that most of those people, they were about $15,000 and a month later than us in de-risking. Is there a good chance that potentially we're just a little bit earlier in seeing that we are in this deep accumulation zone and now is the time to pivot towards accumulation, or is the model going to break? Those are the things to know. There's huge value, by the way, in understanding where the model breaks for those that do want to go ahead and de-risk further. You might not be like myself. You might not want to hold on to Bitcoin. You might not be in a position where if Bitcoin were to come off 85%, it's still above your average cost. You only get there through time. And believe you, we were talking about earlier that right now there are some people, potentially 40% of people, who have an average cost of Bitcoin somewhere around $47,000. There's going to be a point in time where they're able to withstand an 85% drawdown. What would they have to get to? We just looked at $350,000 Bitcoin. So maybe it takes two. Maybe it will take someone, 40% of the people that have Bitcoin right now. Maybe it'll take them until Bitcoin reaches $350,000, where they're in a position where they could say, all right, Bitcoin could come off 85%. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I see volatility diminishing. When I look at this model, I don't see diminishing returns. I see extraordinarily very consistent returns, right? 107.17 since 2013. I set my expectations. These are the expectations I have for the longest, the latest that Bitcoin might be come March 2024. I'm not looking to sell any spot, to do anything different. If price were to trade below the break of this channel over here, you may prefer to do that. And having these type of awareness levels, 53,000, 35,000, 21,000, they're very important. But at the same time, that's what's more important right now is getting everyone just in the correct mindset, just understanding that we are in an opportunity zone. We could be looking at something like 40% down from where we are right now, and that would be levels that we've seen in the past. When I say that, we're looking at a 40% capitulation over here. That's a 40% capitulation over here. If at any point in time, between now and the end of the year, we have a 40% capitulation, that takes us down towards $17,000 Bitcoin. So what's interesting about that is we would also be seeing diminishing volatility. If that would be a big deal. Maybe this goes on until September, October, and then we crash down 40%. That could happen. That's what's happened in the past when you line up Bitcoin from its all-time highs, except that obviously this is 85% drawdown. We would be seeing diminishing volatility. We would be seeing only a 74% drawdown compared to 85%. And that's what I see out there. I see diminishing volatility when I look at the chart of Bitcoin. Listen, everyone, may God bless you. Thanks for being here. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a beautiful day, everyone.